Hi, good afternoon. Jose Guerra, Monterey Community. Mayor, we need to get the 2 minutes back on board. I think it's only fair. I mean, try to consider it. You know, I have some of your council members up there babbling all day long about stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about sometimes, and it keeps going, and we pull up reports that make no sense to Salinas. I mean, we're a whole different city. We're not a big city like most cities. So I believe if you give us back our time, I'd appreciate that. And I think it's wrong for you to take it away from us to begin with. I mean, you know, First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, you should honor that at a minimum. And then once again, our parks, Ms. Lindquist, if you're here, please water our parks and please lock them. They were open again last night late. And, you know, you get paid good money to do that. You guys do you were there, Mr. Donahue. You took the field trip with us. We haven't got our street lights yet. Mr. Jacobs, if he's here, come on, it's not that hard to put street lights up. Come on, guys, do your job, please. Do your job. We're going to hold you accountable.
Hello, good evening. My name is Fernando Galindo, and I am the Monterey County Housing Counselor for Echo Housing. My primary responsibility is to educate both tenants and property owners in Salinas and Monterey County about their rights and responsibilities with the goal of helping people stay housed and prevent homelessness. I'm excited to offer and promote Echo's services in each city council member's respective district. Echo Housing is contracted with the City of Salinas to provide fair housing and tenant rights workshops to this community. We aim to bring a workshop to every city council district, increasing awareness of the resources available to both tenants and property owners, and demonstrating that the City of Salinas and Echo Housing are united in providing these resources. On October 30th, from 5:30 to 7 in Councilmember De La Rosa's district, a community meeting will be held at the Filipino Community of Salinas building. And additionally, we are finalizing the details for a workshop in District 5, Councilmember Sandoval's district, for a community meeting on October 2nd, 2025 at North Salinas High School Library from 6 to 7:30. Echo is also in discussions with Councilmember Salazar regarding a workshop in his district. We want to ensure that Echo Housing's presence is felt throughout Salinas. We are also pleased to announce that we have partnered with the United Way Financial Empowerment Program, which enables us to, we'll be there 3 to 4 times a week.
Thank you.
Karen Cameron, concerned Salinas resident. Recently, I've been signed up to spray days notifications, and I received 28 notifications last month alone that toxic restricted pesticides are being applied within 1 mile of my home. I was recently interviewed by Inside Climate News. She ran data on my home and found that during the years of 2018 to 2022, 108,000 pounds of either chlorpyrifos or Telone 1,3-D was applied within 1 mile of my home. And I know, Mayor Donahue, you're concerned because you live nearby and you're in the same data bank. Something has to be done. There were monarchs that died in front of the Pacific Grove Sanctuary crying with up to 7 different pesticides on them. So I behoove you, this is not just a salad bowl of the world problem, it's a county-wide problem now. And I look forward to things in future that will change this. We just have to do something. I mean, since I've moved here, I've become allergic to formaldehyde. I've had surgery for chronic sinusitis. I know this is, I believe, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. The 2 chemicals that I mentioned that are 108,000 pounds nearby me and nearby our schools here have been banned in 40 to 50 countries in Europe for causing cancer, yet we allow them here. Now, I know this is not within your jurisdiction, but CDPR. I ask you to scream to them that we need an air monitor in this salad bowl of the world, please.
Hello, my name is McGregor Eddie. I live in Salinas for exactly 50 years. And I am here to ask that next Martin Luther King Day, which is not that far, October, November, January, that instead of just having a ceremony, that the city sponsor a workshop on the nonviolent organizing principles of Dr. Martin Luther King, because I think both the city council and the people who come before it would benefit from learning from the successful nonviolent hero of all of us. For Dr. Martin Luther King, it would be a small amount of money to have someone from the Kingian Center. One of the principles of Dr. King is we must have nonviolence in our hearts, not just in our actions. And one of them is you oppose the evil, not the doer, which means not personal attacks, but the problem. And to focus on people's needs so that the people of Salinas know that you care about their needs. And the people of Salinas will have a chance to communicate nonviolently. And using this opportunity, I volunteer to help support it and be both for the community and the city council and the city staff, maybe even the police. Study the principles of our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., nonviolent. Thank you.
Hello, Wes White, Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. First, I guess I want to object to the 90-second rule on a whim. You know, there should be a standard. It used to be 3 minutes, then it went to 2, and now you're just, whenever I feel like it, I'm just going to tie your hands behind your back. Now let's go. I wanted to talk about March of 2014. You know, the spring of 2014, there were 5 police brutality murders that had happened. And at that point, I was just on a bus coming from the Naval Postgraduate School, and it changed my life because not only a couple of months after that, I went to a school board meeting to argue about a principal being fired without cause, but you know, as a free employee. And then a few months later, I come here, and I start watching you prick me for a nickel, prick me for a dime. The way you do business is not really about public service. Voting Rights Act was right about there too. Joaquin Avila, Cruz Reynoso, Juan Martinez is the guy that got me introduced with a lot of that. Pause the Calls, Black Lives Matter. I also got Dred McCall, who was my really good buddy, and Pam Weston to help me come up with that Target sniper logo that we got, which has a tent, a sleeping bag, and a shopping cart. As you know, you're a perpetual target, and we are going to eat you alive every time we see you. And it's horrible, man. We shouldn't be like that. We need to do better. Voices of Change, Karen Araujo, Gary Carnes.
Okay, thank you.
Some real leaders.
So as you may recall, at our last meeting on August 26th, the City Council approved a resolution accepting the certificate of signature verification related to the referendum against Ordinance 2687, which we have been referring to as the Repeal Ordinance. The Repeal Ordinance and the 4 rent-related ordinance, Ordinance 2663, which is the Residential Rental Registration Program, Ordinance 2681, Rent Stabilization, Ordinance 2682, Tenant Protection and Just Cause Eviction, and Ordinance 2683, the Tenant Anti-Harassment Ordinance. Just a brief summary from our last meeting. On July 3rd, the proponents of Protect Salinas Renters 2026 filed a referendum of the Repeal Ordinance. On that same day, my office and I, as a city clerk, determined that the raw count was in excess of the minimum number of signatures required and accepted the referendum petition and transmitted the petition to the Monterey County Registrar of Voters. On August 15th, the city clerk received and certified the Monterey County Registrar of Voters Certificate of Signature Verification, which indicated that the petition had sufficient number of signatures to qualify and move on to the next phase. On August 26th, which was our last council meeting, council approved said resolution accepting the certificate of signature verification. So for today's meeting, the city council is presented with the following options, which is 1, to repeal the repeal ordinance, or 2, submit the repeal ordinance to the voters either at the next regular municipal election occurring not less than 88 days after the order of the city council, or at a special election called for that same purpose not less than 88 days after the order of the council at today's meeting. So with that said, the potential election dates that are before you are the general election date of November 3rd, 2026, special election date of June 2nd, 2026, April 16, 2026, which those 2 dates are called out on California Elections Code, or any other Tuesday, which would be considered a special election as well, but it would have to be within those 88 days, so any time after December 6th of 2025. Cost for the election, as we have seen throughout the media and just commentary throughout this process, Just to make sure that we're clear on those costs for a general election versus a special election, those costs are based on the total number of registered voters within the City of Salinas jurisdictional boundaries. As of the date of posting of the agenda, the total number of registered voters for Salinas is 70,635. With that said, for a general election, costs can range from $7 to $10 per registered voter, totaling $494,445 to $706,350. That's for a general election. For a special election, we're looking at a range between $16 to $24 per registered voter, which puts us at $1,130,160 and $1,695,240. That concludes my portion of the report. I'll go ahead and pass it on to our city attorney.
Thank you, City Clerk. I just want to provide a little bit more detail in terms of process for the council. So first, should you tonight choose to repeal the reordinance, this would require you to introduce and to adopt an ordinance repealing the repeal ordinance. Attached to your staff report is a draft ordinance to that effect. It's been prepared and is ready for action should that be the direction the council wants to take this afternoon. As with almost all ordinances, it would not become effective until 30 days after its adoption. So we've received this question a few times and I want to address it. It's if the repeal ordinance never went into effect and the 4 rent-related ordinances remained in effect, why do we need to take action on the repeal ordinance? It's for 2 reasons. 1, the election code requires you to take action on it, and 2, the other option is available, and that's to put it before the voters. So the repeal ordinance needed to stay alive, even though it was never effective, because it could be put to the voters, and the voters would determine whether or not it becomes effective. So if you do decide to repeal the repeal ordinance tonight, you could do so with the approval of all 7 council members. So you could introduce it and adopt it tonight consistent with your charter, and it would become effective 30 days later. If you do not have unanimous consent on the repeal of the repeal ordinance, it'll be introduced tonight and we'll bring it back at your next meeting for your consideration. So that's all I wanted to add.
But which of these 4 options would be the most cost-effective for the city?
I don't think cost-effective is necessarily the right term, but I can answer it this way by saying that repealing the repeal ordinance will have no cost.
That process, what I'm interested in, and I think we all are, because I think I'm hearing that very clearly here, is we would like a community-based solution. Covers everything. I'm going to put this on an hour-and-a-half mark, and we're on 90 seconds.
Hi there, my name is Tyler Sullivan. I'm an attorney at California Rural Legal Assistance. I'm here on behalf of low-income renters, a few specific clients that we have, low-income renters in Salinas. Just a couple of points on the various different comments from the City Council. Number one, I'm not sure there are 2 sides. There are a lot of renters, and I've interacted with a lot of them, a lot of low-income renters, and I don't know that they would necessarily subscribe to being on a side or another. So I think that's, I struggle with that, especially as we talk about a resolution that will be a lasting resolution. Another question I have for the council is, Mayor Donahue, you said that you would like for the various stakeholders to come with a solution and present it to you. Something that I encourage the council to think about is, if that is presented to you, what assurances will the council give that it will honor that solution, right? So you're asking people to undertake a significant body of work. There are 4 ordinances. We're talking about many hundreds of provisions that would potentially be edited. And I think it's challenging to ask them to undertake that without some assurances. Lastly, I would just point out, I don't know that the city attorney's analysis of just being able to repeal these ordinances piece by piece, that's not my reading of the law. So I think that's if the idea is that you can somehow repeal piece by piece these elements, then that's clearly going against the will of the people in the repeal. So thank you.
The late Bobby Kennedy, Senator Bobby Kennedy, once said, "Some men see things as they are, and I see things as they never were." I see a city council that finally supports the majority of the people in my hometown of Salinas. The vast majority of people in my hometown of Salinas rent. 53% of the people in this town rent. They're struggling to make it every day, every hour of every day. And if you support the people, support rent stabilization, because that keeps people from having their families not on the streets of Salinas. Support rent stabilization. Si se puede.
Members, my name is Nancy Rojas Mendoza, and I'm a CCA Youth for Change leader and resident of Salinas in District 6. I am here tonight in support of the residential rental registration and rent stabilization program. When you go home tonight, many of you have the privilege of going to a home with only you and yourself in it. That's a privilege. The reality is that our community is characterized by the most hardworking people, yet many still can't afford to live comfortably with their families. Families are forced to share one home with many families in order to maintain a roof over their heads. These protections you are actively fighting to oppose are the only protections that these families have left. The people who pick your fruit that you have on your table, who package the salads that you enjoy for lunch, and who work for low wages are asking for your protection. I urge you to protect the people that you serve and vote to keep these ordinances in place. When you do so, our community and the hardworking people who characterize them and contribute to our economy, culture, and everyday life can have the protections that they deserve. I acknowledge the necessity to do your job and make the informed decisions you have to make, but our community is pleading to be protected. I hope that you as a council will take into account the issues that the community that you serve is facing and will put yourself in their shoes.
Council members, my name is Alejandra Soto, and I am a CCA Youth for Change leader and a resident of Salinas in District 4. I am here tonight to speak on the residential rental registration and rent stabilization program. For many of you, the question of whether you are able to afford your home or keep it in the first place is not a thought that crosses your mind. Many residents of your community are not as fortunate. I live in an apartment with 5 people and only 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms in District 4. Yet our rent is almost $4,000 every month, leaving us to worry about basic necessities like food while already being an unideal living situation. Though it might be unideal, we have no choice but to pay the expense. If these already high rent prices were to rise, not just my family, but hundreds of others will be left vulnerable. These protections you are choosing to remove are not only protections for my family and others like mine have in order to keep a roof over our heads. No person should be worrying about whether or not their income will be enough for food to feed their families. In a state of vulnerability in our community, these protections are all more important. Removing these programs only adds another problem to our community while already dealing with the fear of deportations, low wages, exploitations, and more. For this reason, I urge you all to continue to support the ordinance by repealing your repeal of the ordinances on June 3rd and keep them in place. Tonight, you will hear or have heard many stories from young generations who want this change not only for our present, but also for our future.
City Council members, my name is Carlos Mendoza, a Youth for Change youth leader with CCA and a resident of District 2 under Tony Barrera. I am here tonight to speak in support of the residential rental registration and rent stabilization program. As a youth in Salinas, this discussion is important because every year the rent in Salinas keeps drastically increasing, resulting in more residents having to work many more hours just to be able to afford their rent. These ordinances are important to the community since it gives them protection and better security in their homes. My family suffers from the loss of these ordinances, having to work 6 days a week just to barely be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment for me and my 2 siblings. Most of this money having to go towards rent and the rest goes to bills and other necessities. Therefore, I hope you can consider supporting the ordinance that is beneficial to Salinas residents and be able to keep them by repealing your repeal on the ordinances of June 3rd. Thank you for your time.
My name is Michael Duran. I am a resident of District 5. I'm with the youth of CCA. Today, I am here to speak about the ordinances that are in place and would like to speak on my behalf for you guys to repeal the repeal. So today, I'm going to talk about my personal experiences with these issues. Rent is too high and it's rising at an uncontrollable rate. I've lived in an apartment complex all my life. I have multiple friends moved due to the rent increasing and they weren't able to keep up. I used to be able to go outside and enjoy my life, but now I have no one to hang out with or talk to. I have a friend currently struggling really, really badly because of these rent increases. It's gotten so bad to the point where her boyfriend has to buy her clothes and food to help out. This just goes to show how bad this crisis has gotten. Here's the thing, I'm a teenager. I shouldn't be worrying if my family can make ends meet. We struggle with rent, and on top of that, we still have to pay for utilities such as water and electricity. The amount we pay for necessities doesn't barely leave room for any recreational activities such as going out. I worry that one day I wake up and I find out that we're being evicted because we weren't able to pay the rent. I'm new to this, but if I have to use my voice, then so be it. This crisis has gotten so bad that youths out here are speaking about personal experiences, and it shows the improvidence and sympathy you guys have for us. Once rent gets too high and we're gone, there'll be normal people and a huge loss of money. Thank you for your
Council
time.
members, my name is Daniel Martinez. I am a CCA Youth for Change leader and former renter of Salinas. I am here to ask, who do you guys represent? The real estate developers, the property owners, landlords? None of these is correct. You all represent the people of Salinas. No one but the people of Salinas. Over 10,000 residents have signed a petition for these ordinances to stay and protect different families, workers, seniors, and students. All signed, but it seems this isn't enough for you. Of those signatures, more than 7,000 have been officially verified by the Monterey County Elections Department. I believe this is more than necessary. Ignoring these signatures would be ignoring the same people you are meant to serve. I ask you to please respect the will of the people and repeal your June vote and allow the rent stabilization and other tenant protection ordinances to remain in effect. I live in fear that without these ordinances, there will be an increase of housing instability for tenants like me and my family, potentially leading to higher rents and more frequent displacements. Please don't force costly special elections which would waste billions of dollars of the taxpayers' money that could go to a better cause. The decision is simple. Listen to the voice of the people you're meant to serve and protect, or ignore them. I hope you all reinstate and protect the city's ordinances. Thank you.
We are done explaining ourselves. Protect Salinas Renters has shown up again and again with facts, signatures, stories that should have shaken the city to its core. We've laid bare truth. Families are being displaced, elders are being priced out, and working people are being pushed to the margins. And still, you repeal the protections that gave us a sliver of stability. So let's be clear. We're not here to plead. We are here to take control. This is no longer a policy debate, it's a declaration. Rent stabilization, anti-harassment laws, just cause eviction protections are not optional, they are essential. And they will be reinstated, not because you allow it, because the people demanded it. 1 in 10 voters signed a referendum. That's not a statistic, it's a signal. We are organized, we are mobilized, and we are done waiting for permission. If you won't protect the renters, we will. If you won't lead, we'll replace you. This is our city, our homes, our fight. We are Protect Salinas Renters, and we are taking back what is ours.
First, I'd like to start off, the reason we're in this position is because you guys rushed or repealed the ordinances. It was not data-driven. Our position is repeal your repeal and no changes for a year to allow for the ordinances to be implemented. So a lot of landlords have been saying that there's not a sufficient rate of return. The ordinance has a provision that allows for landlord to petition. When we spoke with landlords, their frustration is the process itself, right? So we're open to dialogue, but before we can even get there, we need the city to actually implement these policies. You need to do town hall meetings. A lot of landlords, lots of tenants don't know what to do, right? So you guys are already talking about making changes without the first of them even being implemented to begin with, right? We've asked for data. Councilman Barajas, our team has reached out to you and asked, hey, show us the numbers that you said we lost rental units. Show us that data. We provided data, right? That presentation should be a public document that can be allowed for scrutiny to see if it's actually even accurate. Mayor, we asked you and we showed you data. And oftentimes you said, we looked at data, but not just in the public view, right? That's why there's a lot of mistrust. None of this stuff is done in the public. People state facts as though they're facts without actually providing the reports and the data to verify it. They'll say, hey, we did this and that based off a report I read. Show us the report. It could be the report's inaccurate. You know, that's part of a public trust campaign. So our biggest thing is just to reemphasize, right? We're here because these things were not implemented. So you need to repeal your repeal, right? No cost. Implement the ordinances for a year, right? There's landlord concerns, but there's also ordinances in there that allow for them to get a fair rate of return. That's super important for landlords to understand. You can petition, right, whenever expenses are higher. So that's why we don't feel initially why that anything should be changed, because we actually haven't seen if they even work, right? It was only 5 months of data. And I looked up the sales data. There was a lot of comments being made that, hey, we're bleeding housing units. I looked up housing data for the last 5 years, not true at all, right? And I'm willing to make those documents public. And if I'm incorrect, let's show the data and let's analyze it over the last 5 years. And we'll let Jasmine speak.
Thank you. It's very simple. Repeal your repeal without any modifications, or let the voters decide. This movement that was started by Protect Salinas renters is more than 10,400 people that signed and more than 200 volunteers. All of these people behind me, it was made possible because of them, because of us, because we had the power. And that's why I want to say thank you to the 5 of you who made the very, very terrible decision that you did about repealing the ordinances. Because thanks to you, people woke up. I woke up, and I realized that when elected officials failed us, the people have power. The people woke up, and we're organized and ready for whatever you throw our way.
Joel Hernandez, Executive Director at the Center for Community Advocacy. It's repeal the repeal. I think it's the most cost-effective thing to do. We can continue dialogue, and community engagement is super important for us. We, over the weekend, talked to a lot of people. Many of them said, that's the reason why we went out there and collected these signatures. We need data, we need time, repeal the repeal, and if you're gonna make modifications, let's just go to the elections in November. So that's where the group stands as of today.
Good evening, Robert Reyes. This is not about a landlord or a manager having purchased a single-family residence 25 years ago, 20 years ago, and is somehow scared of being in the red. They're making $2,000 profit. So all these numbers that they give you, that's already on top of the $2,000. What you have here is you have a situation where people are being told what to do, and they don't like that, and that's why they are here. It's not because they are afraid to lose money, they're afraid not to make as much money. So the idea that those people come here and tell you that they're hurting or they're gonna be hurting is a lie. We all know that. Some of these people own 25, 30, 40, 50 units. They're not going in the red, okay? So let's just start there. It's that you're gonna make less money. A tenant does not pay less for energy. A tenant does not pay less for gas. A tenant does not pay less for food. But all of you here are represented primarily by tenants. We talked about the 53 versus 47. That's tenants versus homeowners. Landlords, it's even smaller than that. It's a smaller group of landlords. You are dealing with homeowners and tenants in this community, by far. And so when we come together and you're not able to look at numbers that say, why is Salinas in the top 2? At one point, they were the least affordable. What's the formula? The amount of money that a tenant makes to pay the landlord. Let's look at those formulas. Why are we also number 4 in education? Because we can't afford to take our kids into situations where it costs money.
Thank you.
Okay.
According to Bernie Sanders, every year approximately 550,000 people lose all their wealth and property because of emergency medical services. Thousands die because they don't have access to medical care. Homelessness is skyrocketing in front of us. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is getting wider as we speak. Ralph Waldo Anderson says the only thing necessary for the triumphs of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. And I'm asking you, are you doing anything? Remember, the Monterey County residents are watching you. And I believe that the only way to solve these present-day atrocities is to start reprogramming our minds towards fairness, equality, and justice for all. Thank you.
Council members, my name is Eric Larson. I'm with Teamsters Local 856. And I need to clear up the record about the meeting last Friday with the Chamber of Commerce and Protect Salinas tenants. Respectful meeting. 2 sides came together. They shared their perspectives. Chamber, landlords, realtors pushed the tenant organization to have some kind of response to their proposal. And they said, look, we can't respond until we meet with our executive committee and our volunteers. Protect Salinas tenants have met with their executive committee and their volunteers, and their answer is repeal your vote. Give it 1 year of community involvement and community engagement. Let's collect the data. If you don't vote in that direction, then put this darn thing on the ballot and let the citizens of Salinas vote. That is the position of Protect Salinas tenants.
Council members, my name is Lauren Walters, and I'm a City of Salinas resident. I'm here to comment in favor of repealing the repeal of the rent stabilization ordinances. Our community has been consistent in communicating to y'all for months about the importance of having these basic protections on the books for renters who make up the majority of Salinas residents. Last week, a few council members suggested that the onus was on Protect Salinas Renters Group to convene with the local rental companies and landlords to come up with a shared solution. Suggesting this is not only condescending, but is also tone deaf. If finding common ground were so important to these stakeholders, why were they not open to having a dialogue until the people started to raise their voices? It's probably because they aren't truly interested in a dialogue, but only in protecting their own interests. As a homeowner and landlord, I stand with the over 10,000 Salinas residents that have done the footwork and care enough to show up week after week, and now month after month, loud and proud. It's not too late for y'all to make the right decision tonight for your constituents and the city budget. Repeal the repeal. No amendments to the ordinances until sufficient data is collected. Thank you.
Good evening. Name is Eric Peterson. And the community has spoke. Hopefully people will listen. If this goes to an election, the good guys already have 15%, and all the out of Salinas money you can get together isn't going to overcome that. There's already been 2 years of listening.
Mi nombre es Graciela González, estoy con Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño, soy de la comunidad mixteca y estoy aquí lamentablemente triste, ¿verdad? Porque nuestra comunidad no pudo estar presente ya que ellos salen hasta las 6 de la tarde, 7 de la tarde en el campo porque ahorita están tratando de juntar dinero precisamente para pagar la renta durante el invierno. Entonces, a las reuniones anteriores ellos han tratado de estar presente, pero por lo visto de la decisión que se ha estado tomando en el concilio no se ha escuchado su voz, pero aún seguimos aquí. Seguimos aquí para que puedan revocar la revocación de las ordenanzas, ya que ha sido un alivio para ellos. Estos cuantos meses que han pasado, ellos han tenido un beneficio, ¿no? Ya no les han subido tanto la renta. Entonces, decirles a ellos que ya está por quitarse es decepcionante, porque para la comunidad indígena alzar su voz es muy difícil, ya que ellos han sido de muchas maneras también tenido que salir de sus tierras, pero de todas formas son personas que trabajamos, somos trabajadores esenciales aquí en este lugar. Entonces llevamos comida a la mesa para todo California incluso, entonces queremos que puedan respetar eso y que no le quiten ese alivio que ha tenido la comunidad. Gracias.
Good afternoon. My name is Graciela Gonzalez, and I'm with CCBDO. I am part of the Mixteco community, and I'm here, and I feel sad because the Mixteco community is not present. They're not able to be present because they're working in the fields. They have to work extra hours because winter is coming, and they have to work more to be able to pay the rent. But they're still wanting to know what's happening. I'm here. I'm present. It's hard for them to elevate their voices, but they want the repeal to repeal the repeal. This has been something that has given a lot of relief to the Mixteco community. For many months, they have not increased the rent, and that gives them relief. It is really hard for the community to come here and raise their voices. They have been having to leave their own land to come here they're considered essential workers. They're the ones that work and put food on the table in all California. So I really ask you to please respect their voices and do not take away this relief that they have been feeling regarding the rent. Thank you.
Along with Adam, I have been involved with the original TAC in 2022, which convened actually not for the rent stabilization ordinances, but actually for the rental registry. So that's where that started. So never was this a discussion in 2022 with the TAC team. In October 24th of 2023, council decided to have staff direct and explore the rent stabilization and tenant protections, and then follow up with the economic and planning systems, which would be EPS, to analyze the local market and the impacts. In April 2025, actually April 25th of 2024, we actually had our first reconvened TAC email. We convened on the first day of April 30th of 2024. We had 5 meetings in 10 weeks. So those were our discussions, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody's understanding that this wasn't a huge, long process. Our meetings were for an hour and a half. A lot of city staff, the city attorney was available for us. I want to go ahead and also stress about the investors, what they must achieve based off of the EPS report. They said that they need to have a reasonable return, that sacrifice cannot be undermined by long-term viability. EPS clearly framed 2.5% as a minimum threshold for landlords must sustain without undermining returns. That is not what's happening. There's never been a 2.5% raise for costs, but anyhow.
You guys, you've heard a lot. It makes sense. Help out the families, help out the tenants. However you vote, we will know where your importance lies, what you care about. You care about property owners, you care about investors who aren't even from Salinas. These property owners aren't here, they don't live here. They live in, I don't even know where, okay? A lot of the tenants, all of these tenants, we live in Salinas, okay? So we will know what is important to you based on how you vote. And trust, this engagement is so beautiful, it makes me so happy. We'll be back no matter what you do, okay? We're engaged, we'll fight for what's right. Yes or yes, whatever decision you make. So I look forward to seeing you. I hope you look forward to seeing me again, because I'll definitely be back. And please, repeal the repeal. And if you're going to make any changes to it, let us vote for it, okay? Have a great day. That's a heart.
The rental stabilization should not be left solely in your hands, because too often decisions in this chamber are shaped by political maneuvering and half-truths. The people most affected, tenants, working families, and seniors on fixed income, deserved a direct voice. Rental stabilization is about keeping roofs over people's heads. Let the voters decide. Don't deceive the public with the repeal by changing the verbiage and watering it down. Put it on the ballot and allow the community to make the choice at the next election. That is the only way to ensure transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jason Pineda. I live in District 3. I'm a renter, and I'm just here to ask you to repeal the repeal without any modifications, and to give the ordinance a chance. It feels a little bit, I feel a little guilty asking for that in a way, because I support the ordinances, but we were at this position like 3 or 4 months ago. So I feel like kind of, it's a little bit, I don't, I'm not supporting my fellow renters, but, and in terms of the, wanting to meet and have a consensus, I think that's great. And hopefully that's how we all are thinking of this situation, because we are a community and we only have ourselves to support each other. But we had the option to do this a couple of months ago before the city council, the current city council, decided to repeal it. And as far as I know, there was nobody took up that offer. So I would question the sincerity of any kind of, well, I don't want to question your sincerity, but I just question people saying that they want to have dialogue now, you know.
Ahorita vengo protegiendo a los inquilinos de Salinas y a mi familia. Voy a hacer un comentario. Tengo familia que vive en casas de propietarios que no les renta tan caro. Tengo mi cuñada en una casa de 3 recámaras y paga 1,900. Tiene un apartamento, un cuarto arriba, disculpe, con el baño, y el propietario le da opción a que rente allí arriba. Es que sí, le cobra mucho más barato. Tengo una comadre que vive en una casa también y es de 2 recámaras. Ella paga 2,500 de renta. Ya tiene como unos 15 años viviendo allí y nomás se le ha aumentado 2 o 3 veces, dice ella, pero bien poco, no le aumentan mucho. Yo no entiendo por qué propietarios dicen que los costos, que los gastos, que esto y lo otro, si hay propietarios que no cobran tanto. Tengo un primo, ves, como primo político, él vive en Madera, compra casas que están destruidas, las compra cash, las arregla y las renta. Entonces yo le pregunté cuánto pagaba de aseguranza, cuánto pagaba de otros gastos, y el chiste es que con un mes paga la aseguranza y con otro mes paga lo otro. Entonces sí le queda dinero. Yo no entiendo por qué dicen las personas que no les quedan. Y hay propietarios que no arreglan nada. Gracias.
Mayor, I am here to protect my family and protect the renters. I'm not going to say there are landlords that they don't charge that much. For example, I have a sister-in-law. She lives in a 3-bedroom house. She pays $1,900. There's a bathroom also, and there's like a little room that she has the option to rent out. And I also have another friend that she has 2 rooms. She pays $2,500, and she's been living there for 15 years, and the landlord has not increased the rent but 2 or 3 times. So I don't understand why other landlords come and say that that is not enough, that what they rent the houses is not going to cover their costs. Why do they have to rent the houses why do the rent has to be so high? I also have a cousin, he lives in Madera, and what he does is that he buys houses that are destroyed, he flips them, and then he rents them out. So I was asking him, what are the costs? How much does it cost to rent it? And after you're renting the house, how much do you keep? And then he was saying, well, with 1 month, I pay the insurance, and so it's not true what they say. It's not true what they say, that they don't get enough money, and when they rent the houses, they don't get enough to cover their costs. Landlords are able to cover their costs with the rents.
Luis Chago Juarez for Building Healthy Communities. And happy birthday, California. We're 175 years old today. Today, yeah, 175. Check this out, yeah, September 9th, 1850. Before that, from 1821, it was under the Mexican Republic. Before that, since the 1500s, it was under the Spanish Empire. And before that, it was the Esalen, the original people of this region, named Ensign. If you haven't been to that beautiful park, Ensign, we all know it's right over here. Shout out to CCA for helping leading that. And here we are. Years later, in this whole time, in this span of time, we've had advocacy here for our farm workers, which 55 years ago this summer, and I'm sure some of you remember, the UFW fought to make sure that our farm worker families would have representation. And that's why we're here, to fight, to make sure our tenant families have the right, just representation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cristina Sotelo. I'm a licensed clinical social worker working in the community, and I want to share a little bit about how these high rents are creating a financial stress in our families and affecting their mental health. In addition, these increases are forcing families to live in crowded homes with strangers, and in some cases, children have been sexually molested by these strangers because they don't have any privacy. I would like to remind you that in your position, you are here to serve the community, and I urge you to consider our families' mental health and our children's well-being when making these decisions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Skylar Spear. I'm a staff attorney with Public Advocates, a nonprofit law firm that specializes in housing equity and civil rights. I urge you to rescind the repeal of the tenant protection ordinance and to keep the protections unchanged. Repealing the tenant protections would put the city at risk of legal liability. The protections were passed pursuant to the legal requirements to implement the programs the city is committed to in its housing element and develop and implement a specific strategy to affirmatively further fair housing. Repealing the protections risks violating these laws and other fair housing laws. Additionally, I urge you to keep the ordinances unchanged. Changing the protections puts the city at risk of the same liabilities I just stated. Additionally, the signatures gathered for the referendum show that the residents of Salinas want to have a say in whether the protections are repealed or reduced. Reducing them outside of the democratic process puts the city at risk of violating the residents' right to a referendum, a right the courts have said must be jealously protected. I also want to add that landlords have a constitutional right to a fair return that's included in these ordinances. For all of the landlords talking about fearing losing profits, they can petition to the city for to increase the rent beyond what's allowed by the ordinances. Nobody is losing profits from the ordinances as they stand. That's constitutionally not allowed. Regardless of that, I respectfully urge you all to repeal the repeal as requested and leave the protections as they are. Thank you.
Esther Malkin, Monterey County Renters United. I wanted to bring up a couple of points. The rental registry was created to collect data. So if you repeal that, where exactly are you going to collect the data that is pertinent to your city and the residents of your city? So it's premature to have repealed the way that you did. And I also am curious as to how many council members own rental properties. Last meeting, I believe it was, that the California Apartments Association had a representative come out and thank you all for repealing, or maybe the meeting before. There's a reason for that. The California Apartments Association is who contributed to changing this council and all of the fights that are constantly put before any body of elected officials to try and come to some agreement and help both sides. The time for talking has already passed. How much more talking can you do? It is no coincidence that homelessness has increased to record numbers exponentially, just like when the rents have started going up. We have data about that. We have record student homelessness. A renter assistance program is needed in addition to rent stabilization, not as a substitute for it. We need to have both, because to prevent more homelessness, you have to do both. And that also includes building more.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Andres Martinez, a student and member of the Salinas Youth Council. This past summer, I've dedicated more than 30 hours to community service hours, listening to countless testimonies from families, seniors, and working people in District 1 in Salinas. What I heard was clear. This ordinance is not just any paperwork, it's protection. When renters speak about losing their homes, about unfair treatment, about the fear of not knowing if they'll ever have a roof over their heads tomorrow, these voices matter. This ordinance was designed to give stability and dignity to the people you serve. Repealing it may serve political interests, but restoring it serves the people. Tonight, I urge you to put self-interest aside, listen to the community, and bring this ordinance back. Salinas families are counting on you. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Alma Loredo. Yo soy organizador de padres en educación para Building Healthy Communities y hoy estoy aquí como residente de Salinas del Distrito 2 y voluntario para Protegiendo a los Inquilinos de Salinas. Mi trabajo me da la oportunidad de conectarme con las familias en una manera regular y ver y escuchar de primera mano los retos que viven los retos que tiene el vivir en un hogar o estar sin hogar y cómo esto afecta a la educación de los niños. Las familias tienen miedo de quedarse sin hogar, lidiando con todo lo que implica sostener una renta y una familia. Desafortunadamente, nosotros no somos políticos ni somos inversionistas y muchos de nosotros ni siquiera tenemos dinero para nuestro retiro o para mandar nuestros hijos al colegio. Solo tenemos nuestra voz y la comunidad se ha expresado. Y ustedes tienen la responsabilidad de respetar a los 10,000 votantes que firmaron pidiendo que revoquen su revocación. Demuestren su liderazgo y sean responsables de su rol como elegidos.
My name is Alma Loredo, and I am with BHC Padres Unidos, and I'm a resident of District 2. I am here to protect the tenants of Salinas. I connect with families all the time due to my work. I hear their challenges, I hear their fear. They're a fear of living in the house that they live or ending up homeless. This affects the education. Children are in fear of living on the streets. Families also have a hard time paying rent. They don't have the means to pay it. We're not political. We're not investors. We don't really have the money. Some of us don't even have enough money to retire. So the only thing that we have is our voice. And I'm asking you with our voice to please respect the 10,000 people that spoke. Please repeal the repeal, be good leaders and be responsible and hear the people. Thank you.
Liz?
That's interesting. First of all, I know you can double your time by going on Zoom and in person, but let me just remind everyone that these ordinances did not appear overnight. They took years to develop. What did kind of happen overnight was that the choice to repeal these ordinances was really taken only after listening to one perspective. I think Protect Salinas renters have shown that there is another side to this issue, and the residents do have a voice, and they cannot be ignored. I need to address a couple of mischaracterizations from some earlier speakers. They mentioned that Protect Salinas renters won't necessarily budge, but I have a fundamental question. What specifically is the Chamber of Commerce asking for? Because that seems to be the other identity, right? If we're going to have a genuine negotiation, shouldn't their demand also be transparent and public? This is a public issue. I cannot stress that enough. This brings me to a larger concern. I feel deeply disrespected that this city is defaulting to the Chamber of Commerce, a non-governmental entity that doesn't represent the majority of Salinas residents, to negotiate on an ordinance that will impact thousands of people. Do they own the landlord voice? The Chamber represents business interests, not the diverse voices of our community, as the referendum has shown. Why are we allowing a private organization to drive policy that affects our most vulnerable residents? Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Adriana García, trabajo para el distrito de Salinas High como oficial de seguridad. Día a día me toca ver el impacto que tiene en la comunidad, las necesidades de los hogares de mis estudiantes. Muchos de ellos tienen que compartir hoy día familias, hasta 5 personas en una sola casa. Comprendo que estamos viviendo momentos difíciles en nuestra economía, pero muchos de ustedes han hecho maravillosas cosas por la comunidad. No permitan que su legado se mire manchado por una mala decisión que puede afectar a la comunidad por la que muchas veces ustedes han liderado diferentes campañas para ayudarnos. Les pido que hagan su revocación de su decisión, ya que esto impactaría de manera muy mala para la comunidad de clase media, dejando a muchas de estas familias homeless y afectando más así a la comunidad en otras áreas, impactando a los estudiantes en tener que abandonar muchos de ellos sus estudios para dedicarse a trabajar y apoyar a su familia para tener un hogar digno. Por favor, les pido que hagan su revocación y tomen en cuenta las necesidades de cada una de las familias de su comunidad, una comunidad que siente...
Good night. My name is Adriana Garcia, and I work as a guard duty at Salinas High. And every day I see how house issues impacts my students. I see how my students have to share houses with 5 families, and it's really hard. I know we're all going through financial times that are very difficult and challenging, but you as a city council have done very good things. So don't let your legacy be stained by the bad decision. This decision is going to affect the community. Please show your leadership, because you have been you have helped with this community with many campaigns. So please do the smart thing and repeal the repeal. This is going to impact a lot of people, middle class, a lot of families. A lot of children are afraid to end up homeless. And the thing is that if the parents can't afford the rent, many children are going to have to stop studying, and they're going to have to go to work to help their family have a roof over their head. So please repeal the repeal and consider the need of all the families.
Mi nombre es Marisela y soy residente del Distrito 6. Y hoy estoy aquí también hablando por las ordenanzas, que revoquen su revocación de quitar las ordenanzas. Y hoy voy a compartir un poquito de la experiencia que he visto. Tengo una sobrina que en este año ella salió de una familia, tiene una familia y ha sufrido violencia doméstica por parte de su familia. Y ella ha estado rentando hoteles como $300 por 2 días. Y ella se ha comunicado con su trabajador social, no ha tenido respuesta. Y creo que esta era una esperanza para ella, como las ordenanzas, para que ella pudiera tener una vivienda estable, ¿no? Entonces creo que eso ha afectado mucho, y lo digo también porque estamos en el 2025 y todavía está pasando esta situación de ella está en riesgo de quedar en la calle. Ha tenido amigos que sí la han podido apoyar, pero en casi todas las casas que ha estado han limitado mucho el tiempo que ella.
City Council, my name is Marisela, and I'm resident from District 6. And I'm here today to please ask you to repeal the repeal. I'm here to share an experience that I know. I have a niece that she has suffered a lot in her family. She suffered domestic violence, so she had to leave her home, and she has had to be living in hotels, paying $300 for a 2-day stay. So these ordinances were kind of like a hope for her to be able to find a stable home. I think that it's really hard for her. It's 2025. She's in risk of ending up homeless. There has been some friends that have been able to help her and have had her in her home, but they limit the time that she can stay with them. Thank you.
I had the honor of actually signing these ordinances into the books almost exactly a year ago. As a matter of fact, I think it was September 24th. And at that time, with the leadership of Councilmember Osornio at the time, he pushed to revisit these in exactly a year to see the data so we could make better informed decision to see how they were working. We're here a year, and we still don't have the data. And so now we're being asked to make a decision again without the data. My frustration is, for months, I asked the City Council to engage the community, to educate the community, because a lot of the stuff that gets discussed tonight, there's maybe some misinformation from both sides, and maybe not a clear understanding. And we haven't had that. So we're here again without that engagement, without that education piece. I do want to acknowledge Echo Housing that has stepped up to provide these workshops across the city, which I hope is not too late, because they're very crucial for everybody to understand. A lot of this stuff could have happened 6 months ago. A lot of this. The council didn't push for any engagement at that point. I am a little concerned.
On the 23rd, this council will have to choose between those two options. You will have to put an end to this referendum process by either repealing the repeal ordinance or submitting the ordinance to the voters. That will be in front of you on September 23rd, and that can is not getting kicked anymore.